Hey guys, my name is Simpzy. How you all doing? Welcome back to some more Hearts of Iron 4 Millennium Dawn modern day mod here today on the channel. We're going to be playing as my home country of Australia. Here today, we're going to unite Southeast Asia into one faction, with Australia being the ruling party. I want to build a ring of steel of nations protecting Australia throughout this series, because if the US doesn't show up, we're stuffed if anyone attacks us, like China, Japan. Sorry, I had something stuck in my throat. But you get the idea. We can't be that fragile in this game. So, if you like the sound of that, feel free to leave the video a like and subscribe if you're new. I'd really much appreciate it. So, without further ado, let's get stuck into the Australian campaign. Starting in 2000, Australia has a population of 20 million. The Liberal Party is currently ruling, with John Howard being the Prime Minister in a coalition. I think we need to go down the nationalist route in this series. I think I want to install the army. Yeah, the ADF, the Australian Defence Force. I would rather them lead the country rather than Pauline fucking Hanson, to be honest. But crikey, we've only got 7,000 manpower, holy shit. And we've got some negative traits here as well, which we would like to remove. Our production, our construction is terrible at the moment, but we are mostly a export economy, which isn't too bad. Okay, so we actually don't have a national religion. Christian is for the States. We actually don't have one straight up as Christian. Interesting. We're slightly corrupt. Let's try and reduce that, and we'll try and get the economy booming as well. Industry, and then the small businesses, the sort of the factions within Australia. Alright, we want to go down with extensive centralized bureaucratic state eventually. We want to massively increase our military spending. We want to try and buff up the education, the police force, healthcare, and welfare spending where we can. Oh, interesting. We're actually, yeah, it's realistic. We're mostly an export economy. So globalized trade we'll eventually go for. We're going to have to put in the draft at some point. We'll try and change back, and we'll probably bring in women to fight in the army as well. And we'll try and go with global interventionism as well. We might even look to bring in some defense companies to help out. So I think early on, the main objective of this series is to try and secure, puppet, and take territory in and around Australia. I think we'll annex New Zealand, bring it in as a state, because there's even a part of our constitution or whatever, some legislation, that if New Zealand ever wanted to be a state, they could, which is hilarious. We might even try and annex the Solomon Islands. And maybe like puppet Indonesia if we can get a large enough army. But unfortunately, Australia doesn't have a custom tech tree. It's just the default in this series, or national focus wise. I think we need to expand our civilian capacity. We need to keep an eye on foreign influence as well. And we might even, you know, if we can get our economy on track, because we were only 100 billion in debt, we might be actually better off to buy equipment from other major nations instead of producing it ourselves, because it's going to take quite a while before our production and construction and our military industrial complex is really on point. So we've got the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, so we can actually join in with them in a security pack if we want, which we're not. Okay, so we're currently producing the AUG variant. We live down under. We live upside down, and we load our magazines backwards. It's quite interesting, the AUG. I did read this article ages ago, from what I can remember. Like, why do we use the AUG? Well, from what I can remember, the Americans offered us to use their M4, but they had to produce it in the States. We would buy it off them. But apparently, Australia didn't want to do that. So they did some testing comparing the AUG and the M4, and there was some shitfuckery with it, I think, as well. Basically, Australia wanted to produce its small arms on its soil, so there was a whole thing that, like, technically it made it look like the AUG was better, because the Austrians were more happy to give the blueprint for us to modify and manufacture on our shores, which is interesting. But I think most SAS, Special Forces here in Australia, actually run with an M4 or a carbine variant, as I think just like the memory, like the muscle memory of loading a magazine in the front is easier, apparently. Alright, so we need to focus on upgrading our basic economy. We need to get the construction going quick, fast. Fuel as well. We're going to need a bunch of that if we start conquering nations. But yeah, I think we'll just try and protect Australia. Build up a faction. We're going to need a huge fucking navy and an air force as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this series goes, because this is the first time I'm playing as a really shit nation, to be honest, in the Millennium Dawn mod. As Germany and the US, they're quite large economies. Like, we're basically building everything up from scratch. We do have a bunch of resources, because we're quite a resource-rich nation. Because people don't realise this, that Australia is actually the same size, roughly, as the contiguous United States. However, we have a population of, at this point, 20 million, compared to 300 or so million in the US, which is kind of crazy. Like, people don't fully comprehend how big fucking Australia is and how much resources we have. And we mostly live on the coasts here as well. So I think getting civilian factories, then officers, all of this will cost fuel as well, so that's something to keep an eye on. We also will need to get a large navy to dominate the seas, but I don't imagine New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, some of these smaller nations in and around us probably won't be able to contend with the power of the Australian military-industrial complex. However, Indonesia is going to be a different story. I actually don't know if we're going to be able to take them on for quite a fair few months, maybe even years at some point. So let's get some augs in, the small arms for the Australian infantry. Let's get some basic equipment as well, some trains, and we'll just get a light jet as well. Jesus, look at these fucking infantry divisions. They are very bare bones at the moment, but let's try and get a couple of them in. Let's send them to New South Wales. I think that's probably the quickest point to get to New Zealand, which will be our first target. But it's got to be a lot of fun, this series. I can't wait to see how we go. It's going to be difficult. But if you are enjoying this Hearts of Iron Millennium Dawn series, we played as Germany and the US, support it, and I'll do more. You guys seem to be enjoying it, and it's good, and I'm as well. It's good to be back on Hearts of Iron 4. Our logistics isn't actually too bad, to be honest. But yeah, let me know other factions you'd like me to play as. Maybe thinking of Japan, maybe Turkey. Next time around, something a little bit different, potentially. I just wanted to look at this. Yeah, because we've got no nuclear reactors in Australia, which is kind of crazy, to be honest. We don't even have one, from what I'm aware. There might be some small one somewhere, which I don't know about. We've got 12 divisions, 46 battalions as well. We want to try and increase that. But yeah. The sort of coal lobbying groups don't seem to like the plan of nuclear for whatever reason here. And also, I'm pretty sure the people that sell most of the uranium make a shit ton of fucking money selling it, so. As well, that's another thing. We have a crazy amount of uranium here as well that we flog off to France and the US. So we'll try and keep that going. Right, so let's rally up with the army. So we've got a couple of options. We could naturally try and change the government, or we could go to a civil war. We'll see how we go. We've also got some overseas territories that we control as well. Christmas Island, Nauru. I don't think Nauru, actually. What was the other one? Norfolk. But here is Tasmania. My home state, where I'm from. What wars are currently going on, because we could help out with them as well. But, anything we can do in Indonesia? No, we can't help out the separatists here in the north. Thought we might. Alright. So, we've got a small navy here as well. Let's unpause. We'll rally them up in New South Wales. But we're going to be slowly but surely putting in the groundwork and building up Australia to be the dominant power in Southeast Asia. Got a small air force as well, but thankfully we don't need air supremacy in the Millennium Dawn mod to go after New Zealand if you want. Oh, dude, we're taxing the population 47%. Corporate is quite high as well. But we're currently making 2 billion still. Even with those excessive spending on welfare and health benefits, which is interesting. Mostly probably due to our resources, to be fair. Alright, let's rally everyone up at Sydney. I do believe, like, that's a custom unit model, because that does look quite similar to what our infantry kind of use. What else we got here? HMS Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, Anzac. Some cool looking names of ships. But they seem to be using like an LMG. Mostly the infantry uses augs, but I do believe the light machine gun is some variant. Oh, hang on. So, we've had the USS Cole incident. I will be helping out the states where I can as well. But I think we'll sort of go on our own path to provide our own collective security down here. We can't rely on NATO or any defense pacts down here. Because technically they do guarantee the independence of Australia, the US, but yeah, you can't really trust them in this game to come out and help. Yeah, so I think, because it's interesting, you go with the Australia First Party, you can even go down the monarchist as well. Yuck. I'd rather Australia be a republic than go full monarchy. So I think we'll start buffing the Australian Defence Force. It is kind of cool that you can do that. So they're going to be basically acting as a military junta though. Game-wise, which is interesting. So we'll try and do that. We'll see how we go. We might try and hold a vote to get them elected, and then we'll get them to ban elections. If not, we'll have our own civil war. But we'll see how we go. Which should be interesting, like... Australia never had its own civil war. We sort of inherited our Commonwealth and English values. We never really fought for them. Like... our rights like the US did. Like, I wonder how different Australia would have been if we had our own Revolutionary War. It's interesting. Anyway, this national focus tree isn't overly that impressive, unfortunately. I did have a look on the Steam Workshop for some mods as well, but there didn't seem to be any. There's a pretty cool Turkish and Japanese Millennium Dawn mod, sub-mod. So maybe I should go check that out. So it does cost a little bit to get the political power of the Australian Defence Force up. We're at 4% at the moment. We're currently boosting the party as well where we can. But it's 100 PP, unfortunately. And we might even look to ban the other parties as well. But at the moment, we're slowly but surely trying to make the ADF the dominant power politically. Germany wants to invest? Sure. I think we'll just try and accept from everyone. Because we can't really be too snobby about who's investing here in Australia, because we need to get our civilian sector massively up and running. And being aggressive, being able to war deck, annex and subjugating countries, it's easier to go down the nationalist route. And I think it's like neo-imperialism as well, whatever the policies is as well. And look, we can switch it back to either of the major two parties eventually in the future. But you never know, they might come back, who knows. Alright. So they are now the third dominant party in Australia, which is fantastic. Still continuing to boost them. Alright. And we're going down the national focus, getting as much political power as we can. So we want to try and go down that route. No, we don't want to stay with the West. Yeah, so this is still a custom Millennium Dawn focus tree. I would imagine that some of the factions probably just have this, or some of the other nations. While the US, Germany, maybe some of the major factions have custom focus trees. But I don't know how many people are really playing as Australia, to be fair. Oh, we've managed to wipe out more than half of our debt, which is fantastic. Nice. Now, we will have the financial crisis in 2008, but we weren't that hard hit compared to other nations like the US. But some people still did lose their homes. Thanks to Kevin Rudd. I don't think we'll be able to see him in this series, but we'll see how we go. Or Australia's unique position or whatever. I'm sure there was multiple contributing factors. We've got no manpower at the moment, so we're going to have to install the partial draft Shit. So it looks like I could potentially... No, I'd be 4, so I can't. I won't be in the army for quite some time. I wonder if we even get to when I'm of age. I don't think so. Are we 4 now? Little old Tassie? Chilling? Yeah. So I think that's what we focus our political power on. Just trying to get the ADF in charge. And we might as well go down above all else and go down that nationals path as well, so I think. Because we don't even need to go down economic boom just yet, because we haven't got a crazy amount of debt. Thanks to John Howard, I suppose. It's probably realistic. Switzerland joins the UN, nice. And we'll try and get rid of the corruption as well, because it can be a little bit high sometimes in Australia. Oh, here we go. We might be able to overthrow them. We might be able to get a coup d'etat going. Interesting. Okay. So we eventually want to go to that. So let's go with this to gain more political power. So once it gets to 20%, we could kick things off if we want. Oh, looks like the Indonesians dealt with their separatist forces in the north, and there's nothing really else we can do here. Because the population of Indonesia is kind of fucking crazy. Because they're just sort of a conglomerate of islands joined together. Alright. Japan, India, Korea, Germany, France, Great Britain are building civilian factories in the country. And we're nearly close to have a military uprising. I think that's what we want to go down. Alright, let's get Wi-Fi. Didn't we create that? I don't fucking know. Australia had something to do with Wi-Fi, from what I can remember at the top of my head. Alright, currently go down the world views. And now we've got it to 20%. So we could, once we get the political power, yeah, get them to launch a military coup, which might be quicker than actually trying to get the ground support. And I could vote them in. Yeah, maybe we should get them to do that. Because it probably wouldn't be too hard. It just depends which states back them or join them in this civil war. Alright, we got the political power. You gotta risk it for the biscuit, so let's do it. Let's launch it. Oh, wow. So it looks like Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales has joined the ADF, while hilariously Queensland, Tassie, the Northern Territory, and Western Australia seem to have joined with the Liberal government. Okay. Looks like we got most of the army, though. So, we need to focus on the coastal cities first. So let's try and get you to seize Perth as quickly as possible. But the Gold Coast is a rebellious state. But here we go. Australia's first civil war in its history. Oh my god. And they've completely divided the army. We've got half of the navy as well. Manpower-wise, we don't have. So, Admiral Chris, I guess. Okay. Is currently acting Prime Minister or President of the ADF. Alright, so there's a little bit of a conflict here on the Gold Coast. And we'll try and get these bushmen to try and head to Perth. So, most of the cities and major victory points are on the coast here. So that's what we need to focus on. We'll try and get our navy to intercept the rest of the Australian Navy. And we might even look to get our Air Force in, but unfortunately we don't have the manpower for it. Alright, seems to be one infantry out in Central Australia. Literally out near Uluru. Is that it there? Yeah, I guess it is. Alright, so we've currently surrounded some infantry here in the Goldie, so we'll try and get that. We'll push up to Bundaberg, get some fantastic ginger beer. Yeah, Bundaberg ginger beer and Bundaberg alcohol. Didn't even fucking realise. 2 different companies. Would you believe it? If I was to recommend any Australian drink, go out and get yourself some Australian Bundaberg ginger beer. Holy shit. That shit is so good. It's pretty popular in the States, I'm pretty sure. I've seen like people drinking out of copper mugs and shit. Pretty funny. Alright, so we'll try and crush this division here. They changed the flag, what? I don't know what that blue means either. Kind of weird. Alright, so we've gotten Perth. They're starting to make a push to Adelaide. Unfortunately, gonna snatch Radelaide from us. Alright, we've secured the air base in Western Australia. And hopefully we can just destroy this unit now. Nice. Let's continue to move up. Let's take the Sunshine Coast back. Oh, okay. So the Australian United Democratic Front, okay. So it looks like some other political parties taken in charge. Now, I do want to try and wrap up this war as quickly as possible. Because last thing I want is any foreign interference from anyone, any backing, because that could be quite costly for us. Alright. Continue to try and take the west. So we've lost 32, but we've managed to lose a K on the other side. If we can keep casualties down to a minimum, that would be fantastic. The lower we can keep it down, the better we can support our cause. Right, let's continue to go down with this. Alright, so they're halfway towards capitulation. So I think it is technically quicker to do this. Oh shit, I've been cut off here, hang on. Send a unit up to help to pincer them, rather than try and vote them in democratically. So, I guess role-playing in this series, the ADF has taken control to ensure Australian security down in the south. Nice. So we've got the manpower now to bring in the Air Force to help us out. So this should massively help us out. We were already making quite decent territorial gains. However, once we get air support, we should really change the tide in this small conflict. So we'll get our flyboys running. And we'll get them operating over the top of Queensland, launching from New South Wales now. Get them doing everything. And we'll repair the country if we hit any civilian factories or anything. Oh, why did you just leave that? I want you to go back to Adelaide. I'm not going to worry about Tasmania because we're going to have to navally invade I wonder if you can release states in this. It'd be curious. I'd love to do it. I'll make Tassie independent, as it should be. Yeah, I wonder if there will be sort of a referendum at one point. We're kind of weirdly like the Scotland of Australia to some extent. However, we just don't have the economy to even do it. There's been, like, economists look into Tasmanian independence and we just can't afford it. Our fucking population has, like, the highest fucking alcoholism, smoking, welfare dependency. But interesting about Tassie as well. It's the size of Ireland with a population of 500k. Which is absurd. And how many are in Ireland? 20 million or something crazy? There's some US state it's like the size of. Is it Iowa? No, it might be Idaho or Iowa, one of those. I have a feeling it's Idaho, but I could be wrong. Okay, so we've got one Australian brigade, the 7th, trying to take Darwin back. Most of the conflict is happening in and around the Sunshine Coast and the Goldie. You'd think you'd nearly... If we take Darwin, you'd think they'd nearly capitulate. Because we have all of the capitals. Except for Hobart, which is probably holding out. But the thing is, we'd have to navally invade down there. Alright. We're doing okay. We're gonna capitulate them. This is taking us a little bit longer than what I would like, to be honest. Alright, so let's push into the interior. Let's try and take this airbase. Now, the Americans do have a military base up in the north, so we've got to be a little bit careful there. There's a fair few of those US military bases here. There's that one in the north where most of the US Marines go to. And there's also some... Isn't there some, like, CIA one? Allegedly, I think. In, the centre of Australia somewhere. The ones that we know about. Okay. So we lost 5k. Shit, we lost 70. So we've kept our casualties to a minimum, but... Yeah. We want to try and keep... a fellow Australians about what we can as well. Only a little bit longer. I don't reckon they're running any jets anyway. Oh shit, they took our air base there, which is annoying. Nice. Come on. Alright, so they've sort of fled into central Australia by the look of it. They're basically hanging out in the desert at the moment. While we control most of the fertile coastal territories. Alright, we've taken control of that airbase, but I don't think they were running any jets, to be honest. But we have buffed up our army slightly. We've gained some valuable experience. And same with the army as well. We should be able to get some land doctrines from this. Come on, just a couple more tiles. Nice. Except for one tile, we've got all of the east coast under our control. Alright, keep pushing. Nice. Hey, they capitulated and we see 600 equipment. Nice. And we've captured some bushmen. Hell yeah. So, Now the ADF is in charge. And Admiral Chris. 70% now. Nice. Pro-Western non-aligned. So our first act with the Admiral is to declare war upon New Zealand. So we need to wait for our world tension to go up. I'm sure there's other stuff we can do so we can start annexing countries quite quickly. I'm just curious to see if we can join any factions like NATO or CSTO. So they're going different, okay. Okay, so we'll eventually ban all the other political parties as well, I suppose. Nice. Well, let's repair and replenish and basically recalibrate. And we'll make plans and preparations to go to war with New Zealand after that conflict. So, no, we don't want to allow democratic elections. We'll increase our infrastructure projects. We can even change the flag if we want. No, I'd rather not. I do want to try and keep the same flag. It's fine. Alright, looking at our units. So we did lose half the army, which is kind of annoying. Oh, however, we did get 2 level 5 units, a brigade and a special forces. So is it worth it? Same with the military experience. Not too bad, but there might be some unforeseen consequences. You never know when you've done a coup d'etat. Rather than voting them in properly. And we'll make him the general staff, essentially. And we'll rally everyone up. So I think we'll set a naval invasion from Sydney. And we'll send it to, obviously, New Zealand. Okay. So we are still slowly but surely bringing in units. We'll try and do so. We've increased our manpower supply to 20k. I'd like that to get a lot higher. And we don't want to do any international recognition stuff. We don't need to. Okay, so we've gone down this. That's fine. So we're quite stable politically now. So now that we're a nationalist government, essentially, in Hoi, we can basically go around war decking and doing whatever we want. So we just want to try and secure the ADFs. Stability in charge. Our war support is 50, our stab is only 42, so we'll try and increase both of those if we can. Let's stop running those naval exercises and air exercises as well, because we're going to try and save up some fuel for this amphibious invasion against the Kiwis. And let's stop running those drills over the top as well. Alright. We might look to get the Air Force over to New Zealand as well. Might be a good idea. Alright, let's just try and make this look a little bit more pretty. Nice. So, February 2001. There's a new government in charge. So we can't go down the officers. We want to go down neo-imperialism because that's going to allow us to justify wars a lot quicker. And I would highly recommend that if you want to be actively, aggressively taking countries in the Millennium Dawn. It's a little bit tricky if you play as a Western nation and sort of role play pure NATO-wise, like the US or Germany, because it's technically a defensive alliance. The best way to go around is sending volunteers and guaranteeing independence of countries that are more than likely going to end in a war. But we're going with alternative historical sort of timeline here. Same with the Germany campaign. So when you go with sort of a random future world, there can be some surprising conflicts, so that's always cool. I'm curious to see how this series sort of ends up. Alright. We can try and reduce some of the influence, but I think we're fine at the moment, to be honest. And we don't want to join China in their collective security anyway, so we can leave that. But there's really not much we can do with our political power as Australia. Like, there's not too much to spend on, same with, like, Germany, with all the EU stuff. So we might actually be able to get a bit of it. Alright, so I think we'll go with mandatory service for men and then with women as well. And we might reduce it down at some point. Because 15k isn't enough. From my experience playing as Germany and the US, and I was actively taking out most of the major factions, I reckon you can do like a world conquest in Millennium Dawn if you use your navy and your air force right with less than 1 million. So if we could get it to like 500k active servicemen, that would be superb. Anything extra would be a little bit much. Alright, let's go with that. That's fine. And we're unfortunately in a recession. But thankfully, looking at this, right, we've got no debt. We're making heaps of money. So if we've got spare political power, we can go to economic boom. But I really don't need to. Like I said, we might get to a stage where we've got so much money that we just need to buy equipment from other nations. We might not even need to produce our own. But yeah, we'll have the invasion of New Zealand here today. So mark my words, I want to try and get that done. Alright, so we've got 33k manpower. That's pretty good. And we'll go with mandatory service for women as well, trying to increase that. And we want to go with global interventionism as well. Nice. That's complete. Let's increase our manpower just a little bit more. Manpower / women power now. We'll go with militarism as well. Our corruption's at 3, so we might want to increase that as well. Yeah, neo-imperialism is the one you really want to go down. If you want to be hyper-aggressive, like we do. Because you can't actually go down that if you're playing as a pro-Western nation in this game. Okay, we're doing alright. Alright, we've gone down neo-imperialism. So now, yes, we can straight up war goal New Zealand. Who else have we got? Solomons, and then we've got Papua New Guinea, and then we've got Indonesia there, Malaysia to the north. Yeah, so we can just start war decking countries now if we want. Fantastic. And let's do so. So this should be enough to deal with New Zealand. We'll see how we go with anyone else. Oh my god, okay. The creation of Greater Syria. Oh wow, okay. So it looks like they're going to make sort of an Arab Republic in the east. Huh. That's kind of cool. Anyway, let's justify a war on the South Island. It's only going to take 300 days. That's a little bit. We have to wait for our political power to grow up. And then we'll try and incorporate the Kiwis into Australia's new state. Because we could use their civilian and military factories. Because our military factories are so shit at the moment. We've only got 12. We're actually going to need to annex territory. Same with the Solomons as well. We'll try and get that going. We're probably not going to be able to go after New Caledonia, which is a close island nation near us because it's under the control of the French. But it's interesting, we could go to war with France technically if we wanted to. Alright, we're still far away from those civilian factories being constructed. Got some unassigned divisions as well. So, let's set a naval invasion from Sydney. And I think we'll focus on the South Island. We'll land in Christchurch. Because if we land in their capital, they're more than likely going to have units there. Quite often, nations keep at least one unit in their capital. So let's go for the South Island, secure it, and then we'll go for the North. We might need to set up another naval invasion. We should be able to get naval supremacy over the Tasman. And it looks like things are worsening in America. So I think I want to stand with our American allies no matter what. We don't want to anger them. So we'll try and support them where we can. in there. Operation Freedom Wars. And can we send any volunteers to the Northern Alliance? We can, but I want to focus on New Zealand first before we do any... before we send any volunteers internationally away. Alright, we're going to go down cabinet reform, even though we don't really need to do that. We could use the political power to spend. Okay. And we can't really afford to send anyone just yet. We want to go with fast growth. We'll try and reduce the corruption as well. But things are looking good. 3D printing is being completed. We want to probably try and get more oil refineries at some point. Let's get construction 2 going. And let's get a 3D wax printer as well eventually. After this. Well. Should we send a unit to the north? I wonder if the US would get pissed if we don't. That's my only thing. It's something to keep an eye on. Okay, so what should we allocate this political power to? So we can't reduce this. We probably could increase our military spending because we've got 255 billion in the bank. Actually, it might be better off to go with globalized trade economy because that would generate even more money for us. And they want more help. The US requests help. Sure, we'll do that. Well, we've got this commando unit here, so maybe we should send that. Yeah, look, you know what? I think 8 divisions is enough to deal with the Kiwis. I wonder if 1 division will make much of a difference. But my only concern is... if the Americans get pissed off with us. So we'll send a unit to help on out. Because if the US can't take this country, they can't then go into Iraq essentially. So they need to win this. Australian consumer spends less, so we need to try and get them to spend more. Yeah, we keep on going back down to stagnation, but it's actually not overly too bad. Italy and Iran have sent volunteers. Same with Australia, so we'll send them down. We'll go here. I don't know how much of an impact they're going to have. Oh god, there's a civil war there, really? Oh wow. Emerging outlook. Okay, so they're going to be more allied to CSTO. Huh. I wonder if the US goes fully in there then. If, you know who is in control. I wonder if that might stop them. Huh. He might lose his WMDs. Alright, we need to go down to stable growth at one point. Oh wow, the Northern Alliance is doing really well. In my Germany campaign, sometimes this conflict can turn into a little bit of a stalemate. But the Australians are going on here to help out. They're doing alright. That Special Forces unit's doing really good. Yeah. It's interesting that the Persians are helping them out. Okay. Let's go down this. Oh, we've gone negative. Oh, into public order. Got to be careful. I believe in vanilla, sometimes your war justification can stop, which is rather unfortunate. But it didn't seem to dissolve. But we should be able to wrap up this war quite quickly, as we're still slowly but surely waiting for the justification to come through against New Zealand. Even with our increased defense spending, we're still making a heaps of money. Nice, and they capitulated, so now the Northern Alliance is now in charge. I wonder if they'll change the government. Alright. How far have we got? Oh god. Alright, still a little bit away before we can go to war with New Zealand. June. It's kind of ages away. Nice, we can probably upgrade some of the healthcare and welfare treatment as well. Same with the police. So let's upgrade them. A 47% tax, which is kind of crazy. That's how we can afford some of these governmental expenditures, I suppose. Nice. Still firmly in control as well. Alright, let's go with advanced healthcare. And university as well. Let's go with police state. Nice. We're still making money, which is kind of insane. We've got 300 billion in the bank. And they want us to join the invasion. We will. But they're actively fighting, which is kind of crazy. They've definitely been softened up. So how do I do this? Because I would like to send a volunteer force if we could. That one unit that got some army experience overseas just then is now back in Australia. Now, political power is kind of crap. If we go with this should give us a little bit more, eh? Nice. So the justification against the Kiwis has been complete. Well, let's get stuck into our first overseas war here today. Let's get naval supremacy in the Tasman Sea. Let's get the Air Force to try and reach over there. I could have built a closer air base, maybe on the coast. But I would imagine this war is probably not going to go for too long. We can even capture this air base in the south to bring our fighter jets to operate on New Zealand soil itself. So thankfully the world tension isn't that high, it's only 12. There does seem to be an infantry defence force in Christchurch which is delaying us. But we're coming on in on a convoy. And if we can take Christchurch here today, we should be able to use this as a base of operations. There even seems to be a river to the south as well. Come on. But thankfully they didn't join any nation like... You'd think like the US or the UK would realistically guarantee their independence, but I don't know. Alright, let's try and rapidly try and take as much territory as we can as the Australian and New Zealand war kicks off. Alright, let's secure that airbase down there. Let's try and bring this unit in as well, because then we can get our jets going. Naval supremacy. I wouldn't imagine that the New Zealand Navy isn't that large either. We've got trains running logistics from Melbourne to Sydney. And let's try and take control of the southern island. Alright, we're still meeting some resistance. And the states are at war as well. Alright. Let's set a front line and get it to head north to Auckland. We're having a little bit of a logistics problem. Oh, dude. They capitulated them so quickly. Holy shit. Alright, so... the Navy's doing alright. We've lost 150 to their 200. But at the end of the day, they're fighting on their homeland and home soil. With us taking half of the island, they're halfway towards capitulation. Alright. Let's go with more biofuel. Let's go with this as well. More construction improvement, the better. I probably should get some Army Command, Navy and Air Force Command in as well. Get more Officer Corps in. A division attack, air supremacy. I think I sort of sacrifice organization time and planning. Because if you're well prepared, you can kind of negate that debuff. But it's interesting, there's sort of a cost-based analysis for some of those abilities. Maybe we should go on Strike Force to see if we can catch the Navy anywhere nearby. Alright, let's move the Air Force over because they can't reach. So we can run some planes here. And we'll see how we go. Germany wants to invest. We're slowly but surely taking ground in tiles, but they seem to be holding quite well. We'll push up and try and take Nelson. We've managed to sink 3 New Zealand convoys with HMS Sydney. Another 3 as well. Nice. So if we can continue to convoy raid, that should be able to halt their production to some extent. And we're about to push into the north of the island as well. And get the entirety of the south. But it looks like Pakistan and the UK seem to be sending us logistics to help out. So they're backing us, which is interesting. And we've got to keep an eye on the civilian populace here. Nelson should fall soon. However, yeah, now pushing into Wellington, their capital is going to be easier said than done. First of all, it's their capital, and they've got units there with unlimited supply. But secondary, it's a river crossing, or an island crossing, so this one's going to be a little bit tricky to take. We might actually need to navally invade northward unless we can make some inroads into the northern island. But they've done quite well in this surprising attack. Oh, nice. We've got 240k manpower now, which is huge. Not that we need it against the Kiwis, to be exact. Look, you know what? I might actually just get these units here, although they're not fully equipped, like just brute manpower, and we'll set an invasion force to Auckland. Because if we can take the north of the island, we might be able to pincer them, rather than sending some units back from this front line. We're still convoy raiding them as well. Let's go down with increasing the strength of the state. We actually seem to have air supremacy over the top as well, so we don't even need to risk those fighters. Looks like Algeria wants to help out, which is interesting. But we've actually lost more than anything. Huh. Portugal, Spain, Sweden, the UK and Finland are supporting the Kiwis, while the UK is supporting both sides. Interesting. Okay. Yes, the US still has their military bases in Australia. But it's interesting that most European countries are backing the Kiwis. That's something we need to keep an eye on. Still continuing to convoy raid. Okay, so we're going to launch a small invasion to the north. We've even dropped some naval mines to protect Bondi. And we've actually landed here unopposed. Alright, let's send the commando unit north. And we'll try and push south. If we can secure New Plymouth, Hastings and Hamilton. Alright, so we've run into some resistance. Land doctrine wise, we can unlock this now. Now we've got to be a little bit careful with these northern units because they've got very low equipment. So hang on, let's just redraw this. So I'm surprised we actually took Auckland unopposed. Thankfully. Alright, so how are our 4 units going to do? If they can just sort of brute force push through. South Africa wants to send us some logistics, nice. Oh, hang on, it looks like they've left Wellington there. No. A little bit of a bait. We're pincering them from both sides. Although losses are increasing. We've lost a K. They've lost 900. Nice, we've taken Wellington now. And we've really got them on the back foot. Come on. They're surely about to fall. How are they still holding? Nice! Kiwi equipment seized. And New Zealand has fallen. Perfect. Alright. Not too shabby with 9 units. Had to do multiple naval invasions there. But, yeah, little bit sketchy. The Australian army is still quite weak at the moment. So we're going to straight up annex all this territory and essentially make it a state of Australia now. Rather than puppeting. We need their factory. So we got 6 from them. So that's not too bad. Alright, let's have a look. So we just need to keep an eye on this. So let's install a localized police force in New Zealand and we'll bring it down. But thankfully New Zealand, same with Australia, is mostly homogenous, so we should be able to incorporate them quite easily as a state. And we'll make plans and preparations to sort of go after these next couple of islands. So I got some aluminium, some steel there. And let's move everyone out, I suppose. And we'll rally everyone up. Nice. Well, let's move everyone back to Australia. We'll launch the next couple of invasions from the mainland itself. And we'll move this air force back as well. Because we won't need the armies to garrison New Zealand whatsoever. And we'll stop these convoy raidings and interceptions with the Navy. Perfect. And what's New Zealand's population? It's only a couple of million, isn't it? I can't remember exactly. And the lend leases have now stopped. World tension is now at 20%. And we've got some naval doctrines we can unlock. Same with our air force as well. Nice. Because they gained some experience against the Kiwis. Maybe let's move the army back to Queensland. Because that might be closer to go into the Solomons, which we'll look to go for. And then, I suppose, Papua New Guinea. And then we'll see about Indonesia. But Indonesia, man, is going to be really hard. It's probably, honestly, the hardest faction to invade in Millennium Dawn. Just because of the multiple islands, it's quite tricky. You need multiple naval invasions. And their population is kind of huge. So it's going to be quite hard to tackle them. Alright, January 2003. Still firmly in control of the ADF. We've slowly built up the Australian army to 13 units strong. And we've incorporated New Zealand. Nice. And we're still, slowly but surely, securing Australia's national interest. And we're making inroads to make the Southeast Asian Defence Force faction. Which I still want to do. And let us be the sort of regional controlling power in the south. Everything's looking on point. Well, unfortunately, guys, I've got to wrap up today's video here. I've been playing for over an hour or so. So thank you very much for watching the Hearts of Iron 4 Millennium Dawn Modern Day Mod Australian Campaign Episode 1 here today. Just want to thank each and every one of you for all the fantastic support here today. So stay tuned for episode 2 coming out the exact same time tomorrow. And if you haven't already left the video a like and a sub and a comment, I'd really much appreciate it. But I've also got to say a huge thank you to this month's YouTube channel members for supporting the channel. So massive thank you to Divine Overhand, Mikey, Eric, Chuckles the Hut, Green Nero 1, Dimitri H and Hector Bay. Really appreciate those guys as we ban other parties and political movements in Australia to stop them growing. The civil unrest in New Zealand is growing a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad to deal with. But another civil war's going on over here. Kind of crazy. Yeah, because I want to try and create that united Arab faction, or Arab Union. So I'm curious to see what happens to the state's involvement over here. It's kind of crazy. Things are really heating up over here. But anyway, thanks guys for watching. I've got to go. Make sure to take care of yourselves. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And stay tuned for more Hearts of Iron 4 on the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.